Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing some brief thoughts on episode 6 of the anime series Aku no Hana, or The Flowers of Evil. And I have to say, this was an interesting episode from the get-go, because from the start, we're seeing a Kasuga who is, for the first time in a long time, very carefree. I mean, he's happy-go-lucky, he's ear-to-ear grin, he's walking around the halls of his school, and it reminded me very much of a scene from one of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, where Peter Parker's walking around New York, he's given up the Spider-Man lifestyle, I believe. You hear raindrops keep falling on my head playing in the background, and he's just very happy with himself. And that's a lot of what the mindset of Kasuga is for at least the first three-quarters of this episode, although he still carries with him a hindrance of worry as far as, Nakamura busting in on his date, dumping the water on him in the previous episode when he didn't kiss Seiki per her design, and very much threatened to reveal the gym clothes of Seiki's that he stole going back to the first couple episodes, and that she's basically been riding his nerves with all through this series so far. So you have him walking into the classroom, and everyone is sort of, stark WTF expressions pointed toward him, and then it takes a 180-degree turn, very comically, I thought, and surprisingly, where everyone is actually sort of incredulously joyous that he and Seiki have paired up. And you even have Seiki herself wearing at least the facade of being very happy about it. She's actually bragging about it to her friends, who are all, which, basically they're kind of like, what does she see in this guy? Very much that situation. But I did think it was interesting because, of course, what is like the thunderstruck moment that breaks all this monotony of happiness that Kasuga is feeling is when he happens to see, as he's walking through a hall, out through a window in another part of the building, Nakamura and Seiki talking. What are they talking about? And he's assuring us as much as himself that they, for all intents and purposes, have never talked before. So it has to be something ominous. It has to be something worrisome as he sees it. And he's got to go fishing about it. Basically you have he and Seiki walking home together, and this is where we find out Nakamura has, rather than staying away as she said she would, she's trying to insinuate herself into this as like the third wheel, the third aspect of this pseudo-love triangle, if you will, although I wouldn't say it's a love triangle necessarily, because one of those three members is actually kind of psycho and trying to mess with the other two rather than infatuated with either one, or at least so far as we're aware. But you have Seiki saying that she's confessed that she wants to be, friends with the two of them. She'll be cheering them on, much what she told Kasuga at the end of the last episode and all this stuff. And he really feels worry-free. Now, of course, later you have a confrontation with Nakamura and Kasuga where she's again pressing his buttons. She's trying to insinuate the fact that she's going to break down the walls of Seiki as much as she will Kasuga's himself, and that basically Seiki, according to her, wants to be intimate with Kasuga, and she's trying to push him into that. And it's just really interesting because, of course, you have Seiki, untimely as ever, walking by the library window when she's saying this very loudly, and so she doesn't come to school the next day, and she's feeling, I'm guessing, betrayed because she ends up calling one of her friends crying the night before, and then she's out of that, for that day with a cold, so to speak. Then you have this friend basically telling Kasuga to go drop off at Seiki's house the assignment handouts, and there Nakamura pops up again, and again she's trying to push his buttons, trying to tell him that essentially Seiki wants to be intimate with him, trying to push him into that mindset and break that deviant of, that he has self-contained as Nakamura sees it inside him, break that out. And so the cliffhanger was expert as ever this time around, where essentially you have Nakamura hitting the doorbell, running off, and there is Kasuga having to deal with Seiki and her family and God knows what else, with all of this, nerve-wracked tension. And I can't wait to see what's next. I can't wait to see how this series unfolds, and I hope there is going to be some level of closure by the end. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this episode if you've seen it, and what you think of the overall Aku no Hana story so far, whether you're reading it in the manga, although please post no spoilers. And otherwise, that'll be it from me, and I'll catch you later. Peace.